witches, we bury things.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
we bury. We don't just leave it out. But if I'm a kid,
Right.
I'm 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, I might just chuck it somewhere, place it somewhere that I
Right.
think is out of the way, and will go undisturbed.
Right, and this being like the field behind the school,
Yeah.
that would make sense if you were a kid.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. That you would go there because it's out in the field. It's not readily right by the building. It's not by any of the entrances. Like you could walk out there with your backpack
Right.
and casually take it. Like we've all done it.
Right.
If those of us who were practicing magic, witchcraft of some sort or another in elementary school, even if we didn't fully understand the power behind it or what we were doing, we did this shit. Like we know what this is.
Oh,
so
yeah.
This is probably, honestly, I think just a student who goes to the school who did it. Good for her.
Exactly.
Hey witches, blessed full moon in Scorpio, and welcome to a whole new episode of Spelling the HEKA-TEA with Marcus and Yvan. My name is Marcus.
And my name is Yvan.
I'm an author, witch, activist, defiant homosexual.
And I am an editor, legal assistant, witch, and lipstick lesbian.
Welcome to our little corner of the circle,
where we are 2 homos, 1 chalice.
And it's a rockin' good time. If you are new here, welcome. If you are returning,
thank you for coming back.
Yes, obviously. Thank you for coming back. Thank you to all of our subscribers thus far.
Yes.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
To all the viewers viewing so far. I know there's not a whole lot of you, but we're growing, and we thank you, and we hope that you share it with others.
And we hope you become a longtime viewer.
Yeah, so if you do like what you see, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, because it will do us and our little coven of baneful and blessed witches that we're building achieve what we're hoping it will achieve. So, yeah, thank you. Happy after effects of Beltane.
Yes, happy belated Beltane. I hope that you all had a fabulous time in your rituals or however you chose to observe.
As you know, we had our Walpurgis special.
Yes, which, so much fun.
Yeah, it was amazing, fun, and a lot of work.
As all the best things are.
Yes, as all of them are. And we did do Walpurgis night. We did have a feast, and we did have the Haxen soup, along with spicy German brats and sausages and cheeses. Excuse me. And then we also watched our Witchy Media review of today, which is
Damien the Omen 2.
Why this on Witches Night on May Eve, you ask? Well, that's because we have once again returned to Pagan Invasion, episode 8, which is the preview of the Antichrist. So, in celebration of that, we felt it was only fitting that our Witchy Media review that would follow it would also have to deal with the Antichrist. And as much as we do adore the first film, this one is super campy and super gay, and in that regard, it's the best of the 3. If you're looking for gay camp, it's
for sure. If that's your aim, like you could really look no further than the Omen 2.
It's an outlier of the bunch. I would say the Omen and Omen 3 kind of in tone and stuff kind of mirror each other, but Omen 2 just goes to place. So so looking forward to that.
And you know, in and of itself, just seeing Damien in his teens, you're getting a preview to the Antichrist.
Yeah, you are. So this episode is going to be a little light in the loafers, so to speak. Just like us. Because the last episode 13, ironically, the Walpurgis episode 13, so all the witchy blessings on that.
Exactly.
This is just gonna be a little lighter. This is a fun episode. We've kind of did some field tripping, so it's all a good time.
Oh, yes.
So let's start off with witchcraft in the news.
Oh, yes. So I will get us started off on that front. So first of all, the Psychic and Spirit Fest in San Antonio is beginning on May 17th.
Okay, cool.
The hosts are Curious Twins Paranormal and Victoria's Black Swan Inn.
Ooh.
With 2 N's.
Well, yeah, the Swan or the Inn?
Swan.
Oh, okay.
But Inn as well.
Yes.
It usually is. But I was referring to the Swan.
To the Swan, yes.
So it will actually feature artifacts from Ed and Lorraine Warren's Occult Museum.
Oh, cool.
It will be showcasing the Annabelle doll.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
The haunted Raggedy Ann.
Mm-hmm. as well as lots of other objects and artifacts and haunted delights.
That's cool.
Yeah, I wish I could go. That would sound so much fun.
Yeah.
So there will be guides from the New England Society of Psychic Research,
Mhm.
And they will be providing insights about these haunted artifacts that are being housed at the Spirit Fest.
That is really cool.
And tickets will range from $40 to $99, but it will be $10 for kids ages 4 to 14.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love a witchy, family-friendly
Yeah,
event.
that's awesome. In Nigeria, several, especially amongst the young, there's a growing rise of Nigerians, particularly young Nigerians, who are leaving Christianity and returning to their indigenous African pagan spiritual roots. The reason for this mass exodus, which in Nigeria, Christianity, Catholicism, etc., is the majority religion, and it's huge. But apparently, what is fueling this mass exodus is all of the blatant materialism and greed and monetary worship that is going on in these Christian and various sective Christian churches.
Wow.
Whereas they feel that their indigenous ancestral gods and spirits and familiars and nature and that is the true connection to the divine and to spiritual growth and awakening and and it's really rising amongst the young people of Nigeria, particularly young Nigerian men. There was one person in the article who spoke about how when his mother was pregnant with him, no, he was sick. Excuse me, he was sick and he was like 1 year old, and she went and saw a shaman, and he had predicted that the boy was going to grow up, that he was going to grow up and be strong in the faith, and he was going to be a shaman. And she kind of stopped at this because the mother was super Christian. She kept it a complete secret. Every time this kid went to go get baptized or do anything prolific in his church to like move through the church, he'd get into major car accidents.
Really?
Wow. And it finally, after it all, like the mom herself finally got this like sense that like
something was
not right, and this was not to be told. So she told him about the prophecy, and he said it 100% clicked for him, and he believed that the reason why like the car accidents and things kept happening when we tried to go to communion, we tried to go to confirmation, etc., was because it was not his path.
Yeah.
And that was just one of many, many stories in the article that were pretty similar of just people who are just left and right finding themselves called by the gods, by their ancestors, and by the spirits and familiars to return to the faith. And there is a pagan regrowth happening, a revolution happening, a pagan revolution, and it has been long needed.
Oh, absolutely.
Long
100%.
needed.
And I can just completely empathize with the disillusionment that they're feeling with the church.
Yeah.
You know? And I always love someone returning to the faith of polytheism and the goddess and all of that.
Same.
So this next story comes out of Scotland in West Lothian. At the Beatty School campus. A red onion with needles and pins sticking into it was found on a playing field behind the school. So there's been a lot of discourse about that in the local community.
Right.
Some people feel angered by it being discarded in an area commonly used by dogs and small children.
Yes, understandable.
Some believe it to be a hex, while others believe it is a protection spell on the school. Oddly enough, onion magic is very much trending on TikTok currently. In one spell, you'll cut a bulb in half. You put someone's name inside of it with salt and pepper, and then put it back together with pins to banish that person from your life.
Yes.
And then in another spell, you'll insert black pins into an onion and leave it in a particular area to give that area protection.
Yes.
So to me, obviously, I don't know the witch. I'm not local to the area, but to me, just reading these two spells, it seems more likely to me that it was a protection spell.
My thought on this is a couple of things. So one, onion magic can be used for good or ill.
Yes.
And for example, Lady Sheba, who was she was a witch in like the 60s, 70s. She's part of that whole like revolution. I think she came out of Temple of the Golden Dawn or something. Like I think that's where she came out of. And like Gardner and all that shit. She came out of all that. But she did. I remember I had her spell book. And it was like this onion sacrifice spell. And I don't have the book. I want to get it. I need to buy it. I think it's called Lady Sheba's Book of Spells. I just remember it was black, and then the script was in embossed silver, and it had like moons and the pentacle or stars, shit, whatever on it. But so I don't have it. So I'd have to get it to like kind of relook over the mechanics of it. But from what I remember, it was basically like amplifying your own power by the sacrifice of other nameless. So basically, you would use this onion in this onion sacrifice spell, and it would empower you. And again, this is all alleged in the sense that like I don't have the book anymore, so I'm just going based off memory of when I did, and this was in 2001, 2002, so like 20 something years ago now. So
Isn't that crazy that that was that long?
That is. But I believe like it basically claimed the life of some random person in the world, like took their life in exchange for empowering you or
Right.
whatever. So I never touched it. I thought it was weird. But again, I could be wrong, and that was not what it was about at all. But I believe it was something along those lines. But traditionally, garlic, onion, etc., is used for protective magic.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that you mentioned that onion magic is like trending on TikTok right now, and it's an elementary school, very young school. I honestly believe this was a student. I believe this was a student, more than likely a girl, who either is dealing with an issue, having an issue, and she did a or was scared of something and did a protective spell at her school.
Yeah.
Or she's protecting herself from a bully, from a student. But just it's trending. Onion magic is currently trending on TikTok.
Right.
It's an elementary school. Like, I could see a girl haphazard, because most people, witches, we bury things.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
We bury, we don't just leave it out. But if I'm a kid, if I'm
Right.
8, 9, 10, 11 years old, you know, I might just chuck it somewhere, place it somewhere that I think is out of the way, and it will go undisturbed.
Right, and this being like the field behind the school,
Yeah.
you know, that would make sense if you were a kid.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. That you would go there because it's out in the field. It's not readily right by the building. It's not by any of the entrances. Like, you could walk out there with your backpack and casually take it. Like, we've all done it.
Right.
If those of us who were practicing magic, witchcraft of some sort or another in elementary school, even if we didn't fully understand the power behind it or what we were doing, we did this shit. Like, we know what this is. So this is probably, honestly, I think just a student who goes to the school who did it. Good for her.
Exactly.
I think that's actually it for the news. It was a slow week.
It really was. Like, you know what? Better a slow week than reports of 8 murders.
Right.
You know?
Or another scandal with the Satanic Temple or the Church of Satan or the Satanic Grotto or Satan's Bungalow.
Right.
Mikasa.
S2 Satan.
I was going to say Mikasa, a Hellkatha. Mikasa, Hellkatha. Yeah. So it's nice to have kind of a quiet, especially after the Walpurgis special.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice that this week is kind of boop boop. Especially because we're getting into astrology, mixology. Now, yes, it is the 12th. It is the full moon, if you are watching this. Those of you who are joining us again, you know the drill. If you are joining us the first time, I'll just explain it really quick. You're like, why? This is the middle of the month. Are you doing astrology now? I'm a big fan of being able to connect dots and seeing the patterns of things and being like, oh, and where we've been to where we're going. So I like to do astrology for the month in the middle so you can look and reflect on what has been and see if those patterns have occurred since the month began in the past couple of weeks, and then what to look forward to now with a better understanding of how those things connect. We did not do it last month. There was just so much going on with episode planning and episodes that ended up having to kind of become specials because they had to deal with really hardcore subjects. It was just a lot. So astrology mixology for May. We're back. All right. So May is all about transformation, communication, and new beginnings. Specifically with the Sun in Gemini and Saturn's shift into Aries this month. Pluto's retrograde in Aquarius will push us to reflect and seek a deeper understanding of ourselves, of others, and our life and situations. So May 4th, Pluto moves into Aquarius retrograde and goes until October 13th. This encourages introspection and reevaluation of long-term goals and values. It focuses on the big picture and what is yet to come. May 12th, today, full moon in Scorpio, which is opposing Uranus in Taurus. So this signifies a time to release stagnant emotional baggage and embrace the change that is coming. Because if you don't embrace it, it's going to suck. It's going to hurt.
It's going to embrace you and not in a fun way.
Yeah, exactly. So it will encourage breaking free of your comfort zones, and it will push you to focus on your personal growth and evolution. And sometimes that could be outside of a person, situation, job, whatever, home that you're in now and moving into something different. So just if that's where you're finding yourself, this may be the time where now it's all going to come to a head. So just ride the waves. All right. So Gemini season begins May 20th. This brings a focus on communication, social interaction, and mutual stimulation. May 24th, Saturn will shift into Aries, marking the start of a new cycle for many of us, like we were talking about, new changes, etc., moving us towards practical action and new beginnings. Set clear intentions for what you want, and in terms of what you want and in terms of pursuing more ambitious goals. This is the time to start pursuing those more ambitious goals after May 24th. May 25th, Mercury moves back into Gemini, enhancing our communication skills and mental clarity. On May 26th, the new moon will be in Gemini, and this encourages us to focus on community, shared resources, deep emotional connections, and setting intentions for the future. This is a good time to address shared finances or intimacy issues with your partner or whoever it be. Yeah, I like that. May 26th, it talks about community and shared resources. I think, especially here in the United States, but really like everywhere, but especially here in the United States, we're in a really bleak, uncertain time in
Yes,
terms of our
that's
government,
true.
our leadership, all the insanity that's happening in our schools, and it's all scary. It's all fucking scary. And things are shifting, and we've been a society that, we grew up at a time where you played outside.
Yeah.
And you saw your neighbors, you made friends with your neighbors.
Exactly.
You had to get permission to be on the phone.
Right.
Maybe you had two lines in the house, but if not, like, you could be on the phone all the time. Like, just there was community. There was more
Yes.
community than what we have now.
That's true.
Now it's been global community, or it was. Now it's all about like influencer marketing on
Right.
all of this social media. It's not even social media anymore.
No.
People aren't really connecting friends and family like it started. It's just mostly everyone advertising shit.
Right. It's almost more like social marketing.
Yeah. So there's so that sense of community has been kind of lost.
I mean, especially after COVID,
Exactly.
I think that there was a really big shift that happened then that really has not ever swung back the way it was before.
Yeah. So now this is a time to really, as it's saying, really rebuild and reconnect those connections, those commitments with the people in your vicinity and people who live around you, not just your community as in your chosen family, your friends, organizations you belong to, but literally your neighbors.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if they're flying a big old Trump flag or something, don't fucking talk to them, or a Le Pen flag or something, like, if you're in France watching this. But, like, yeah, your general neighbors are cool, and we're all going to need each other.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
This is going to be a good time to facilitate that kind of communication. So just overall for the month, reflect on past experiences and identify points of growth. Communicate open and honestly with yourself and everyone around you. Set clear intentions and take action on those intentions to make those intentions into manifestations. And embrace change and be open to new possibilities. Ride the wave, whatever may come. And that is your astrology mythology.
Yay!
For the month of May. We hope that your stars
Align.
guide you brightly and align.
And we hope that ours do too.
Yes, cheers to that.
Cheers! I think one thing that's very interesting about that forecast is because, this is the time of year when we're seeing Taurus season give way to Gemini season.
Yes.
And I think with this forecast specifically, it's very much about like making those blueprints for what you want to see happen in the coming month.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that really is the energy of both of those signs put together.
I agree.
100%.
100%. Yeah, that is, 100%. I agree. And we hope that you do too. And let us know, what do you think? How much or how little do you follow astrology, adhere to it in any way, shape, or form? Are you a daily horoscope person? I'm not a daily horoscope person. I was for a while. When I was younger, I was all about the daily horoscope.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not really, it probably applies to some Leo or whatever somewhere, but it never really, I would read them in paper, they never seem to apply to me, right? But I do think that the forecasts, just like with natal charts, are overall correct.
Mm-hmm.
I think the general forecasts I think when you try to break it down to specific signs and days, I think if you can do a forecast for a sign for that time, that's one thing. But the individual like horoscope for the day, I just don't see how that you can't get that. Excuse me, that is too specific of a prediction, of a reading, of a whatever, to apply to every single person.
Exactly.
So, and I've seen how, like, in some cases, depending on the paper, they don't use actual astrologers, and they'll just
really?
like have people just making up shit. Yeah. So that's the other thing. Like, whereas the forecast, like, depending on who you're going to, or obviously you're getting this from here. So, and we're witches. So, like, obviously the forecast was actually forecasted, and not just like, oh, we're just gonna hodgepodge shit.
Right.
But like,
just make up any old box of hogwash.
Right. But like, you don't know. Just make sure that you know that astrology is being used, and astronomy is also being used to create and calculate accurate astrological star maps for forecasts for said month or year. All right. So after all of that hard work from the past special, Walpurgis Night, and all that jazz, so what could we do? And we've talked a lot about this little pocket of the world that we live in here in Tacoma, specifically in this North End Stadium District, North Slope, Old Town, heart of town. It looks like a little harbor village. And just how beautiful it is here. And we, talked about how, for example, in last episode, we talked about the film The Wicker Man.
Oh, yes.
And how the remake of The Wicker Man with Nicolas Cage was filmed here on one of our islands and takes place here. Also with Practical Magic was filmed here, though it takes place on the East Coast. But, this is just such a beautiful, magical place.
Really
films like Fear with Mark Wahlberg and young Reese Witherspoon were filmed here. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle was filmed right here in the neighborhood. And, excuse me. And it's just an interesting little place with a lot of history, occult history, a lot of hauntings. And we thought we should really take you guys out to see some of the neighborhood, the houses, so you kind of get an idea of this beautiful, magical place that we live and get to cast spells in. And we had an opportunity to go to some of the houses in the beautiful mansions in the neighborhood. So we thought we'd take you along.
Mhm.
We had to sneak the camera in the pocket because it was kind of a no-no to have pictures, cameras going on. Excuse me. But we did it anyways. So you'll see what I could get. I got footage of pretty much every place. So enjoy.
Yes.
Tell us about our first house we saw today.
All right. So the first house that we toured was the Bullard House at 523 North J Street in Tacoma.
Mm-hmm.
This was designed by the prominent Tacoma architect George Bullard.
Mm-hmm.
In 1895 was the year that it was built. Truly has stood the test of time with its tall windows, large rooms, full width porches and stately columns.
Yes.
Love those. We are definitely both architectural design freaks
Yes.
over here. Definitely has been a lot of work, as you can tell walking through the house, that
Yes.
has been put into maintaining it and making it look as it did in 1895 when it was
Yes,
built.
it's a beautiful home. Interestingly enough, and you'll see in the footage up in the attic, that the house had a cutoff point, and then in the 1920s, an extension was built from it. And when you're up in the attic, as you'll see in the video, there are these windows, and you open the windows, and it actually looks out into the extension because now it's a crawl space with piping,
Yes.
so you can crawl out there if you need to fix anything or whatever. But it's still the original part of the house with the original like moldings coming off the roof hanging over the windows, and just beautiful.
Wouldn't mind going back into this closet.
Exactly. All our favorite things would be in here.
found this place really interesting because it felt, and I toured it twice. I saw it one time before, and when I went through it, and I point out to advantage, I was like, you'll probably notice too, is that it felt very clean, and not just like it's not haunted, like there's no ghosts, but like it was actively like cleansed clean. And the first time I went through it, I kept noticing that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, that's interesting. And then when I had gone to go down into the basement, there was a sign, a wooden sign, and painted on it was a sun smiling with a sign that said, take one blessing bag a person or each, and it was happy summer solstice. And I was like, oh, okay, like chances are, I mean, summer solstice, like I'm sure some cleansings were going on and a lot of other things, and I just love the history of the house.
Oh, yeah.
The names written up in the attic.
Yes, that was so much fun.
From the two, obviously, brothers.
Yeah.
In 1967.
And I love all of the hanging wisteria.
Yes, this is just like
so pretty.
Perfect, like, again, like if you're a witch, like just kind of like that a witch's house that you would want. Like
a witchy oasis.
Yeah, it was so beautiful and such a wonderful, lovely, lucky treasure.
Oh, yes. It's very, very much enjoyed. If you are in the Tacoma area and you also see an opportunity to visit this home, definitely do it.
Yes. So then next, we went to Rust Mansion. Now, Rust Mansion, I didn't get a lot of footage in here, only because like I said, there was like no cameras, and I had to put it in the shirt pocket, and it kept kind of falling into the pocket. But I will be including photos of the mansion. That way, you can still see what was, see what was and what is of this beautiful, spooky place. So a little bit of background before, and growing up here, we have stories about this place, so I will get into that, but just let me tell you a little bit about this mansion. So, as president of the Tacoma Smelter and Refining Company, oh, by the way, I'm reading out of Images of America, Tacoma's Haunted History. These books are great. I can never not enough praise the Images of America books.
Series. Love
They're
them.
Just incredible. As president of the Tacoma Smelter and Refining Company, William Ross Rust quickly became one of the most influential men in Tacoma. In 1889, Rust established the smelter and created the 1 square mile town of Ruston for the company's employees. The smelter bound everyone and everything in Ruston, about 50% of which is rumored to be on ancient Native American burial grounds. Everything is a Native burial ground. I mean, really everything where you walk is a burial ground at one point or another. Someone was, I'm sure a Native American murdered another Native American, probably on the property my apartment building is sitting on, or right outside the door, or one direction or another. Like, and that's everywhere in this country.
Right.
That's just how it is. But I guess they need as an actual sacred burial ground. Anyway,
they want you to think you're walking through poltergeist.
Right. Did the cursed land affect the destiny of the Rust family? As the public's concern over pollution and air quality due to the toxins released from the smelter increased, Rust moved swiftly to sell. However, he stayed on as the company's president for several years after the sale in 1905. The smelter remained open until 1985, running from the furnace first lit by Rust himself. So the Rust family. Rust moved into his dream home with his wife Helen and their 2 sons Howard and Henry. To the outside world, they were model citizens and the perfect family. In 1911, Howard died at age 24, his life taken by a ruptured artery in his heart. His family would not learn about his death until they returned from Europe a few weeks later. Helen became distraught and refused to return to the home, which was so closely associated with her son. The family lived in temporary housing until a second, less extravagant mansion was built a few blocks away. That mansion, Rust 2 or Rust 3, something like that, that mansion is literally a block and a half from my building. And Rust, the big one that we're touring, that is like 2 blocks from my building. So they're all really vicinity. The family lived in temporary housing until the second was block. In 1928, William was hospitalized, requiring emergency surgery for intestinal blockage, but he never awoke. Helen became so sad she acquired placement in a care center. In 1936, her youngest son became severely ill. Henry died before the tender age of 35, leaving behind a wife and 3 daughters. Helen passed away just 1 year later. With the 3 most important men in her life gone, she lost her will to live and died from a broken heart. Haunted Mansion. Utilizing the $5.5 million earned from the sale of the smelter, Rust commissioned the construction of his first mansion at 1001 North I Street. The land purchased came from the estate of the late Paul Schultz, who committed suicide in his home on Yakima Street in 1895, after embezzling money from the Pacific Northern Railroad. Already, Rust had been exposed to 2 cursed pieces of land. Native American burial ground curse, blah. Okay. In 1905, construction began on the beautiful white mansion, which was modeled after the John A. McCall mansion in New Jersey, built in 1903, then destroyed by fire in 1927. Fortunately, the Rust mansion never burned, but the family would live in the 10,813 square foot mansion for only about 5 years. Wealthy man dies in mansion. After the Rust family moved out in 1911, the home saw many owners. Orville Billings and his wife purchased the home and converted it to apartments. Billings was a candidate for governor and one of the city's wealthiest men. On April 22, 1919, Billings fell under scrutiny for possibly having illicit relations with a 14-year-old deaf and mute girl. The day before his trial, Billings sat at his dining room table, showing off his new pistol to his friend and wife. A few nights prior, someone had attempted to steal his automobile. Playing with the gun in his hand, he joked about loading it with ammunition before he could stop the thief. He twirled the gun until it pointed to his head, and then, with one last laugh, he pulled the trigger. It was ruled an accidental death, though many suspected suicide. So that didn't mention anything about the ghosts. So I will do that. So this place, when I was young, was still apartments. It was divided up into 4 apartments.
Oh, okay.
So 2 on each side, 1 on the bottom, 1 here, 2 upstairs. And it was derelict, just disrepair. And it was that way for decades. And whenever people would try to work on it and repair it, the ghosts of the rust and Paul Schultz, they believe, would disturb the construction of the house and trying to refurbish it, get it back to life. That it just would never, the spirits would never let it be repaired and refurbished, and all attempts, the workers would be driven out. And you would hear this from worker after worker after worker. Like they would talk about that, oh, I don't want to work on that place is cursed. It has a reputation for those who did live in it and have lived in it, fell on times, hard ones. There are eerie things to this day that go on in that mansion. We toured it today, as you know, and it was all administrative offices in there. And there is some weird, Stepford Wife-ish organization that meets in there. Yeah. They're never there at night. It's very weird, very secret society. But Tacoma is full of that. Tacoma is full of pentacles and crescent moons in the sidewalks, carved in the sidewalks, the old sidewalks. And just, there's a lot of, ceremonial magic, secret societies. A lot of that stuff is involved in the founding of Tacoma. Tacoma's a very weird place. Cool, but weird. So... all these beautiful old houses, overgrowth.
Oh, the other building.
Yes. It's Victorian.
Oh no, I love it.
This is Biltmore Apartments, actually owned by my same landlord company owners that own my building and many others in the neighborhood. This one is very, very interesting and cool. Lots of studios and a couple one bedrooms, and it's super, super haunted. We've heard a lot of interesting stories about this place from people who work for the business and who have lived here and do live here. But also just a really cool building. It makes me think of the Dakota and Rosemary's Baby. And it's got a cute pond.
I would be so tempted to just go down there and jump in. You find me getting arrested in my swimsuit.
First step is rest. There's boats in the water. It's just really a beautiful place to live. Very lucky that this is where we get to live and experience life. Super pretty. Super beautiful. And super haunted. Don't let its pristine beauty fool you. This neighborhood is actually really fucking creepy when it wants to be. And then here is that side of the mansion we were just in, the Russ Mansion. Full of curses and ghosts and suicide, debts gone unpaid, despair, all the good shit. This house was actually used in my novel, Ghosts of Blood and Bone, which is available now in paperback and digital everywhere books are sold. We'll soon be coming upon the house that was famously featured in the film The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. The lady who lives there is extremely nice and wonderful. She'd already shown me the greenhouse, which was made famous by the film. So now we're going to see the inside of the house. More shots of our beautiful, haunted neighborhood. Lush this time of year. Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, not a lot of that footage came out because y'all were in my pocket. So there you go. Our next house.
Yes. So the next house is going to be the house where How the Hand That Rocks the Cradle was filmed.
Yes.
AKA the Charles Hurley house. This is a stately Queen Anne style home built by Charles Hurley in 1891. The main features of the house are the large covered wraparound porch, which I'm never going to complain about because I'm a big sucker for a wraparound porch.
No.
Simplistic columns and cornice work, windows, and the bold geometrical irregular massing on the second floor and the attic. The most prominent feature entering the home is a large dark wood staircase, very iconic. And I'm sure that once I do see the movie, I will find the staircase even more iconic, but it was already pretty iconic.
Yes.
It was very central and beautiful and couldn't look away. So there is an equally large ornamental lighted newel post ascending to the lofty second floor. This home, of course, is most known for being the house where The Hand That Rocks the Cradle was filmed.
Yes.
Very beautiful house. I did find it interesting that each floor tended to have like a different motif to
Yes.
it. You almost felt like you were walking into 3 separate homes.
Yes.
And of course, as the movie showed, a very beautiful garden with the greenhouse
Yes.
and all of that. So that was really fun to see. It was very floral scented walking through the garden.
Yes. So I met the lady about a year ago who lives in the house. They bought it like 23 years ago. They're still living there. And she actually invited me in to actually tour her house. But I was by myself, and even though she was like a little old lady, I did not feel comfortable going into a stranger's home alone by myself. Like, Yeah, I needed accompaniment. But I did check out the greenhouse, which is infamous from the film. It's such an iconic character in itself, along with the house. And she told me about how it's not an actual functioning greenhouse. It does not stay warm. The glass is just regular thin pane glass. So, like, it gets cold in the winter in there. You can't put plants in it. They will die. So I just thought that was interesting. But the greenhouse is just so beautiful. And the house is just so incredible. Yeah. Again, they believe that it's always been said that Charles haunts the house. Not that he is vicious or anything. He's not like a mean ghost. None of the ghosts around in any of these homes are mean. Yeah. They're more like observant. But Charles, the ghost of Charles, is was it Hurley?
Hurley.
Yeah. You will see on I can't want to call him Hartley. But I swear I think when I was a kid, someone called him Hartley, and that's why. But yes, Charles Hurley. You'll see him sometimes on the porch, on the front porch at night. Usually about dusk, you'll see his shadowed form standing there, just staring down. I myself have seen him many a times in my life, and I walk past that house every week, like every week, at least 2 or 3 times a week. I walk past that house, like I'm going in that direction, like it's there. And I'm an evening walker, night walker.
I'm a night walker.
I am. But yeah, I've seen him, and it is unsettling if you're not expecting him, and then he'll be there in the corner of your eye, and then you look and he'll be there. It's not like you look and he's gone. Like you'll look and he'll be there, and you'll tell that he's looking at you and you're looking at him, and then you keep walking, and then you turn to look again, and yeah, he'll be gone. And and it's very evident that just from everything that it's a ghost and not just like the husband, right, or just some random dude on the porch, like on the veranda. So it's a very yeah, but it's a great house, beautiful as you can see.
And honestly, I have to give Charles some props for being a very relatable ghost, because if I were a ghost, I would also just want to hang out on my porch all day.
Yeah. lastly, you checked out the Frank Toby Jones house. So Frederick Watson engaged the local architectural firm of Albert Sutton and James Pickles in 1890 to design a colonial revival style residence for he and his new bride Elizabeth. Charles Herbert Jones and Frank Toby Jones purchased the property in 1907 and hired local architects Ambrose Russell and Everett Babcock to design alterations. The front door opens into a foyer, which is the access point to the parlor, dining room, main stairwell, and half bathroom under the stairs. Large bay windows on the first floor provide spectacular views of Commencement Bay, framed by the Olympic and Cascade Mountains. So Frank Toby Jones is with a Franke, so a lady, Frank. So kind of Frankie, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Frankie.
Yeah, good.
But anyway, so it's believed though that it's either Frankie or Toby Jones, or it is Albert Sutton, or what is it? Frederick Watson's wife, Elizabeth. That's possibly her ghost that you see up in the windows that are above the portico that sits above the pediment above the front door. And I've walked by there many a nights, and you will see a woman in what looks to be an old-time dress, old-time garb, standing in the window, looking out at you as you walk by. Very eerie. This is my neighborhood. Well, our neighborhood. How do I survive? This is our neighborhood. Like a pirate. Our neighborhood. Very beautiful, very interesting. A lot of unique Victorians and neoclassicals and Beaux Arts and Tudors and Georgians and craftsmen and Dutch colonials and just a whole smorgasbord. Mid-century modern, just modern, brutalist. These condos are very much done in the brutalist style over here. But this is where we are going. This beautiful house right here. Shot of the neighborhood. It's beautiful traveling streets. But as you can see, the house is beautiful. The views,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
amazing.
the views are amazing. Like, just incredible views. This was my favorite
This is my favorite too.
of all of the houses in the neighborhood. Like, this was definitely my favorite. It's just you wanted to live in it.
Oh yes.
And it is lived in. They're all
Yes.
lived in, but this one's lived in by a family of
around
our
our
age.
age, yeah.
So it really felt alive and lived in.
Definitely. Oh, I just wished that I could camp out and never leave. Maybe they'll adopt us.
Yes, maybe. Here's hoping.
Here's hoping.
I do see them out playing, like, the kids playing and the dad and the mom playing with the kids. And,
Right.
like, now it is kind of weird to, like, in the future see them and be like, I know what the inside of your house looks like. And I've
Exactly.
seen every room of your house almost. Like, so that's a little weird.
Right.
But yeah, maybe they'll adopt us.
Maybe.
Or invite us over for drinky poos. Who knows?
Exactly.
And as you can see, there was, footage of the neighborhood and the other houses and the beautiful pristine water and the sailboat and
Oh,
just-
such an amazing view.
yes, just all the magical things that have made living here worth it and continue to make living here worth it.
Yes.
If you do come to visit Washington, yes, go to Seattle, of course. Like, that's where everyone goes, do all that stuff. But there are things to do in Tacoma and delicious things to eat and see and just bask in and take in. And definitely check it out. You should come say hi sometime.
Yes.
And yeah, like I said, the neighborhood is pretty haunted. It's spookier in the fall, obviously.
sure.
Lush and vibrant during the spring and summer, but spooky in the fall and winter. Spooky even at night, though, in the spring and summer. In this neighborhood, so almost every house, building in this area has got a ghost. And you see them, you feel them.
Yeah.
But it's a wonderful place to live if you're a witch.
Yeah.
So we're skipping spellcraft.
Yes.
This one time, we said it was just a lot with the Walpurgis doing the
Yeah.
candles and just all that stuff. And you kind of need a minute to kind of figure your shit out, figure out your sense, your vibe,
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, where you're going.
Exactly.
And we didn't want to do just like another protection spell
Right.
or another money spell. Like, just like what you can think of at last minute to do. The editing on this last episode was just
A headache.
a headache, down to the wire, and then it tripped over the wire and had to keep going. So they're just, we don't just pull the spells out of our butt. There's either we're coming up with them or they take time to research and find something wonderful, right, and authentic.
Well, I guess technically I told them all about the onion spells, so
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. Pins, black pins. Strategically, I think it's like you would do a number of like 6, 9, 3, 6, 9, 12,
No.
or 13.
Or 13.
And 13 is in either way. You can go good or you can go baneful with that.
Mhm.
But black pins, protection, positive energy. Bury it. Don't just put it someplace strategically. If you are doing it for protection, to protect a place. If it is a location, if you are like afraid of a school shooting, and so you want to do a protection spell at your school, fine. Bury it. Bury it. Be a good witch. Don't just place it somewhere. Bury your shit. Always bury it.
Pretend you're a
That's how it
pet.
goes. Yeah, that's just almost everything is like bury it. Take it outside, bury
Mhm.
it, put it in the sea, the river, whatever. But
Right. Put it down in the earth.
yes. Yeah, so it just, those things take work. So there you go. Quick and easy onion spell.
Exactly.
Spellcraft, done. There you go.
There you go.
Use your own spell protection of choice. You can always just easily say, by the goddess within and the goddess without, mighty HEKA-TEA, cast your love, strength, power, and protection all about or all around, and just say that 9 times. Like 3 times 3. There you go. Or say it 3 times. Or 6 times. So there you go. And then bury it. Spellcraft. We did it.
Woo! We did it.
All right. The pagan invasion. We are once again returning to the Crystal Mountains, to the Crystal Castle, to join Carol Matriciana and Chuck Smith Sr. on the throne of paganism and despair for the pagan invasion,
Mhm.
episode 8, preview of the
Antichrist.
Antichrist. expecting.
still not sure why it was called Preview.
I don't know, and I don't know what I was expecting, but I do know what I was expecting.
Yes.
And it wasn't this. I was expecting like more like Armageddon-y, Four Horsemen of Apocalypse,
Right.
talk about the fallen temple of Babel, the whore of Babylon,
Right.
riding the beast, the mark 666.
Yeah.
This was very just 1991 and racist. Like
Yes.
it was just, once again, it was the Antichrist, it's the Hindus,
Yeah, everything's India's
the
fault.
Muslims and Islam
Yeah.
is facilitating the Antichrist. The WTO, the World Trade Organization, and NATO, and the burgeoning at the time, the burgeoning EU, the infancy of the EU in its time. These things were all. This is where the Antichrist is going to come. He's going to rise, and he's going to lead in Europe because in the Bible it says that it's going to be Rome in the north and Roman territories. Okay, well that's because 2,500 years ago, like with the Book of Daniel and shit was supposedly written. They didn't know that the United States existed. They didn't know
No.
Mexico, Canada, South America. They didn't know any of this shit existed. Like, so of course, Rome, being persecutorial of the Jews and of Christians at the time, is going in the Roman Empire. That is going to be the Antichrist. That is
Right.
going to be the enemy. That is where the Antichrist is going to rise.
Right.
Like, and then they talk about that this power that is going to usher in the Antichrist is from the north.
Mhm.
Therefore,
It's Russia.
it's Russia. Yeah. The Bible doesn't say Russia or even
No.
allude to anything in that area territory again because they didn't even know that fucking existed.
Exactly.
But because this was 1991, because the Soviet Union was falling, all this shit, they're just like, it's Russia. It's interesting to see all the things that they talked about saying that were going to happen,
Mhm.
and they didn't.
Yes.
Like, have not. Like, because it's 2025, so we know that the things that they're threatening about occurring when this was filmed have not occurred.
Exactly.
We did see Chuck Smith finally in
We
his
did.
own documentary, and that was called Armageddon 3000, I believe is what it was called.
that.
Could be wrong. I'll double check, but I believe it was Armageddon 3000. Something 3000, Species 3000. It was something 3000. And, or Conspiracies. Oh, not 3000, 2000. 2000, like the year 2000. It was like Conspiracy 2000 or Armageddon 2000, Prophecy 2000, something like that. But it was about the year 2000.
Yeah.
This was clearly made in like the late 70s, early 80s, probably mid 80s, like 84, 85, at the latest. And it's Chuck Smith is particularly younger and looking light on his loafers. Well. And, yeah, it was just paranoid nonsense. Racist,
Yes.
paranoid, xenophobic nonsense. But there was nothing really about the Antichrist. I don't know.
No.
I was expecting more like Omen-y shit.
Right, I was too, and there was none of that.
No, like I'll tell you, every time the History Channel, A&E, Biography, whatever, National Geographic, Travel Channel, ever did any type of thing on the Antichrist or hell or some shit, Armageddon, they always made it more interesting and biblical and
Yeah.
than whatever this was. Like this is just very much focused on Hinduism is bad, yoga is bad, these things are going to help bring the Antichrist, it's going to be Europe getting on one currency, it's going to be all these things that have already taken place in some form or another, and nothing has happened.
Right.
Certainly not in the year 2000.
No.
They were convinced that they're going to see it in their lifetime, and pretty much everyone that has been talked to in this documentary series who's like on the side of Jesus is dead. So none of that happened in their lifetime, but they're adamant in Pagan Invasion that they're going to see it in their lifetime. It was interesting too how eco-friendly it was, eco-conscious.
Yeah, that's true.
Like they talked about the ozone layer.
Uh-huh.
They talked about climate change.
Right.
They talked about how man is destroying and using up the resources God gave, and this is destroying the planet and therefore destroying the beauty of God and inciting his wrath. That climate change, global warming, was unchristian and was against God and Jesus and God's plan. Like, which is so not the language of the right
No.
and the Christians now, which is very, drilling good. Global warming is good because it means the apocalypse is coming and that means Jesus is coming. Yay, yay, yay. And they believe that interceding and preventing climate change, preventing what is going on, will actually be disrupting Jesus' return and his second coming, and so we need to let the world die and melt and all this shit. Whereas back then, Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr. were all like, fucking protect the ozone layer, we have to rebuild the ozone layer, we have to fucking reduce, reuse, recycle, which obviously now we know never really worked out, but it was an honest attempt.
Yeah.
Like, there was an actual, where it was, and then Reagan and Bush later said, it is our God-given duty as Christians to save the planet that God has created for us.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's just interesting how the rhetoric has now
Shift.
shifted and changed as corporations, thanks to Ronald Reagan, really began to have their influence on politics and politicians. And how, even though I can't stand Carol and Chuck, that language of their Christianity, to me, is more in line, I would think, with being Christian than this capitalist, globalist drainage system that it is now.
Yeah, I agree.
That being said, it was still a racist dribble. And again, it really wasn't even worth taking notes
It really
because there wasn't anything fascinating to really learn.
No.
It was actually really vague. Like, it was all just the rehash of what they've been saying, and now just saying it's the Antichrist, but it's still bitching about the same shit.
Exactly.
Nothing new.
I swear, every time we see Dave Hunt, I just think that he looks even more and more unhinged.
Yeah, 1,000%, 1,000%. And he's always fucking blaming shit. Oh, they also did, though, they acknowledged in this that Israel did not exist until 1940, did not exist again until 1948. In the land of Palestine, they repeatedly refer to it as Palestine, that it was Palestine, and talk about how they took Palestine from the Palestine. Well, they don't say that. They just say, like, the Jews got Palestine, returned to Israel, built Israel and Palestine, and they just happened to get it. They don't talk about how they acquired anything.
Right, of course
just
not.
God did it.
Yeah.
God did it. Because God said so. It's just bullshit. But they do repeatedly refer to it as Palestine. So that was awesome. And hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it on the pagan invasion.
That's a wrap on Chuck and Carol.
For now.
Or for now. I wish it was really the
I
final,
know. A few more episodes to go.
Yes, it's the final countdown. And now, without further ado, let's get into the
Witchy Media Review.
And the Damien Thorne of it all.
Yes. So we have Damien, the Omen 2.
Yes, directed by Don Taylor and Mike Hodges.
And released in 1978.
78, I believe, yes. In the titular role, I love saying titular.
Yes.
In the title role, we have Jonathan Scott Taylor as Damien, who in the film is 12, about to turn 13.
Yes.
We've got William Holden as his uncle Richard, his father's brother, and his wife Anne, played by Lee Grant.
Who I love.
Oh, she's great. You know what's interesting is that Catherine Thorne, his mother in the first movie, was played by Lee Remick, and then we've got Lee Grant in a maternal role in the second film. I think that's interesting.
Yes. Lucas Donat.
Donat.
So Lucas Donat, we're sorry if we are mispronouncing, but he plays Mark Thorne, Damien's cousin. This is gay. Like, gay. Like, Damien's in love with his cousin Mark.
Yes.
I first saw this when I was a teenager, and immediately I was like, what is this gay shit? Why is this super gay? And then I was like, oh, it's The Omen 2? Oh, because I didn't even know this existed. I only knew it was the first one, and had only seen the first one. And I've been obsessed with it ever since.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I mean, I will always be a person whose favorite is the first one, but I love the second one as well. After the second one, I think that it falls off a little bit for me, but I still am a diehard fan of the first two movies. I think my favorite scene in The Omen 2 is when he's like first coming into his like demon power, but he doesn't really know how or why, and he's passing notes in class, and his teacher catches him, and he's in his history class, and he gets called to the front of the room, and his teacher starts asking him questions about history, and he just rattles off the answer to every single one, not knowing why he knows all of these facts. Now, of course, later you come to find out it's the demon power, but it's just so iconic to see this little 12-year-old boy wiping the floor with his smug teacher.
Yes. My favorite scene is actually kind of the saddest, and it is when he, spoiler alert, if you want to fast forward, I would do so now, because I'm going to say a spoiler in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So when Damien kills his cousin Mark, they're like walking through their forest on their property by their pond, and Mark and him are having a heart-to-heart, and Damien has been groomed by two sexy Satanist men who are like all about protecting him. One works at the military academy as the new instructor. He's like the Mrs. Blaylock, the maid from the first one, the nanny from the first one. And then the other dude works at his uncle's company, Thorne Enterprises. And but they're very like, it's very like groomer. I don't know how else to explain it. Grooming, like, but not in like a
not in a sexual
gross way, but like it's still kind of in an erotic way. But like I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, he's talking to Mark about this revelation and who he is, and he's like, I want you to be by my side, be with me, I want you there, I want you, I love you, Mark, I love you, I need you to be, like, it gets very, like, all of a sudden Mark's like, you're the devil, get away from me, and he's like, but Mark, I love you, Mark, be with me, stand by my side, be with me, and then he's like, fine, if I can't have you, no one can, and then he kills him.
Yes.
He drops a fucking, like, tree on him or something.
Oh, no, he like, makes his brain boil.
Right, that's right. Yes, he has, like, an aneurysm, seizure or whatever, and he dies. That's right. He's, like, walking, he's like, oh, and he, like, holds his thing, and he drops. That's right, thanks for refreshing me. So, it's just, but it's, like, a beautifully heartbreaking scene, and it's played with such, like, desire. It's not just like, oh, he's my cousin and it's family. Like, no, I don't know if those actors had a conversation about how they were going to play it, but what was behind that was, there was something else entirely.
Oh, yeah.
But it would make sense, though. I was thinking about it, and I was like, you could kind of read this as homophobic, because, like, this, like, oh, the story about the Antichrist. Like, well, homosexuality is depraved, and this was in the 70s.
Yeah.
So, like, they could be like, well, this is an extension of, you know, he's the Antichrist, so
Right.
he's, like, into penis, too. Like, you know, it was just, yeah.
And specifically his own biological cousin's penis.
Correct. So there was, yeah, it did kind of feel like it was almost weaponized to kind of bolster the Antichrist depravity of Damien.
Right.
But
it was a beautiful scene.
Yes. A full moon, 100%.
Oh, yes.
1,000% a full moon. Definitely check it out. Damien, the Omen 2. Remember, if you like what you see, please do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Really means a lot to us.
It really does.
We love doing this show for you guys. We hope that you guys are enjoying it. And yeah, remember, witches, broomsticks, not just for cleaning.